Oh, hi there.
Wayne.
McMurray, how are you now?
Good, and you?
Not so bad.
A couple of you in the comments of each video have been asking me about my VP9s. Do I still have them? Do I still shoot them? Are they still any good? Yes. To all of those questions. I will say my opinion on them has slightly changed, but not at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of a weird thing. I still really like these guns, and there's very, very few pistols that when I set them up to fit me with the back straps and the side panels, that there is one way to grip this pistol. This pistol grip forces me to hold it exactly the same every single time. The consistency on this gun is insane. And every time I grab it, every time I shoot it, it's the same exact experience. And it's a good experience, which is awesome. And I really enjoy it. I love the trigger. Overall, I really like the guns. They're just not a primary fighting gun for me. They're a primary concealed carry gun or a vehicle gun for me, but as far as I'm gonna use this as my war fighting gun, or I'm gonna do this or any of that stuff, that's not where these sit for me. Which is strange because when I shoot them, I've shot them wet and sandy. This one, which I love and try to keep nice, because it's the midnight bronze, the color's really not showing because of the way the light is. But in the sunlight, these do incredible things. But I try to keep this one nice especially, and I took it out a little further south in good old Florida, and it got super sandy and super wet. It was so bad when I got it back. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't drop it. It's just the wind kicked up really bad. It was raining sideways. It got nasty. And I shot it to see if it would work, and I had zero issues with it. And realistically, that's what I would run into down here where I live. So wasn't upset, ran just fine. And in my head, I was like, oh, this is one of my carry guns. I should test it out and see how it does in the elements. Cause I have to be ready to go over the beach with my gun. So I'm kidding. But it was nice to see that it would put up with that, and the Cerakoted from the factory color, it's not a normal finish, so I was also curious how that would go. Given the fact that this is kind of a different style finish than HK would normally do, it was also interesting to test that out. It's one of those situations where I have zero reason not to trust this gun, and I still do trust it. I just let go of this being the only gun I have sort of deal, because it's good for a lot of things, and for the level that HK introduced this at, which I'll get into in a second, it's a stellar performer, and it does really, really well. I wish they made the maritime version and sold it in the States, because that would fix all of the problems people have with them from YouTube land. Because there's torture tests where this thing works, and there's one famous one from somebody who's gonna steal all your money, and SVDs. These guns run just fine. I have no issue with their reliability and track record, but the way Germans say people's, like the people's pistol, it's not complimentary. And those memes where they have HK and the pores, like HK handing the pores the VP9, that's half a joke and half the truth. So the people's pistol in German modern parlance, or just the way they talk in general, is not complimentary. So their methodology behind this pistol is, give them a striker fired since they think our hammered guns aren't great. And they put this banger on the market, but they made it as complicated as a Swiss watch on the inside, and this is nice and open in the rear. So if I started doing some really hardcore stuff, I don't know how that would go. But again, their methodology behind this pistol is to give the average Joe the option to get into HK. Great. And it's not me being snobby not using this thing. It's more, I understand the bracket which they released it. You know, with optics, there's hunting and 3-gun, that's in a bracket, tactical, and there's super hard use military optic, right? And some companies have that with guns. Like, you're not taking a Glock 48 or a Glock 43 downrange, you're going to take a 17, possibly a 19. And if you compare the 17 and a 19, the 17 does a lot better in harsh environments than the 19 does. And there's plenty of videos of 19s fucking up on YouTube, which no one will talk about.
Hey, fuck you, buddy!
Understanding that these guns are more focused on concealed carry and tactical / police use, they're not like a military level gun. So it's not my only gun sort of thing. There's some guys that do it that way, more power to them. There's a lot of people who love the VP9, and it's a good gun. It probably will never fail you. And this one has 4,000 rounds on it. I owe you all an update. And it still has the 9mm red spring in it, and I'm shooting 124 plus P through it a lot. Realistically, this gun does exactly what I ask it to, and with a smile on its face. And I really love this Midnight Bronze one. And I love how it fits my hand. I don't get uncomfortable shooting it. It has this nice smooth part under the trigger guard. You don't have to do any sort of nonsense to it. You literally take it out of the box, clean it, feed it, fire it, repeat. It's great. Great gun. And HK, listen to everybody, made 17 round magazines as well as 20 rounds of Justice from the factory. These are really good magazines, by the way. They're marked to 20 rounds and they fit so smooth and eject so smooth. Such good magazines. And these 17 rounders are motivated, man. They fly out of there, it's great. So capacity is a non-issue. How well it shoots is a non-issue, and its reliability track record with me, absolute zero issue. And I don't abuse my guns, but I don't baby them either. And the one that I did want to baby, I inadvertently beat worse than my regular carry VP9. So this has a holster, and sometimes it's a Glock 17 based on who I'm hanging out with, and sometimes it's a VP9. Either way. And quite frankly, the VP9 is much more comfortable and confident in my hands. And every time I draw it, there's never been one time ever that I've drawn this thing and have to move the sights around. I literally draw it, present it, and it's perfect where it's supposed to be as far as sight alignment, which is excellent. That's exactly what you want in a handgun. Consistency and all the other things I talked about in that other video. This is a very easy gun for me to select, and the Surefire X300 fits on it. It's a very adaptable handgun. If I were a beat cop, let's say, I would use it. If I concealed carry, I obviously use it. If I was doing stuff going from a permissive environment into a non-permissive environment and back to a permissive environment, you know, tactical applications, this will work. Military application though, she doesn't make that cut for me. It's hard for me to say that because I love this gun. The love I have for this gun is proven through what I've used it for and how well it runs for me. But I can't use it for everything, and I'm not going to recommend other people use it for everything. It'll probably do what 99% of people do, but if you're in some sort of, the people who don't watch my shit anyway, they like watch it to laugh at, is, you know, people that are top tier dudes doing serious work. So those guys who are running that stuff, I don't recommend this gun for you. And I definitely, absolutely do not like these for suppressor use. They always, no matter what can I've used, spit something back at me, and I just don't like it for suppressor use. It's just not a suppressor use gun. I'm sure if you put the back plate on it and all that other shit, you'd be okay. But I don't like the VP9 Tactical as a suppressor host. I actually like the VP9 Tactical, and I would buy it just to shoot it as is. I wouldn't put a suppressor on it because it's miserable suppressed, just like a Glock or, you know, anything that's really low bore access striker fired. It just doesn't deal with that extra pressure well. I will say though, out of the box, if I had a G19 with a threaded barrel, or I had this with a threaded barrel, and I had to use one suppressed, I would use the VP9 because it just does it better. Glock guys that suppress their guns are just lying to themselves. There's a lot of shit that comes back. I've always been peppered using a Glock or a VP9, quite frankly, by, you know, whatever it's kicking back into the action. Unburnt powder, shavings, all that stuff that's coming back in my face. And that's not something a lot of guys are going to talk about, and I'm sure there's that new OSS can would probably fix that. But unless you're using the brand new OSS pistol can, which I've had no experience on, but it has its flow through, so it's not blowing it back into the gun, you're not gonna have a good time shooting these suppressed. So there's gonna be dudes in the comments that don't care, and there's guys that will ignore certain shortfalls because of all the positives they have. That's fine, I'm not telling you not to do that. But for me, the VP9, great for home defense, concealed carry, some law enforcement and tactical applications, but military applications are suppressed, hard no.
You're really gonna pump the brakes on a donkey dressed up like a unicorn.
Oh, I'm stomping the brakes. You put that idea right through the fucking windshield.
But if you want like a solid trigger, just hyper consistent, this is like, in my inventory, there are very, very few perfectly embody one way to grab it, one way to press the trigger, and hyper consistent, and this is one of them. So if you want a hyper consistent gun and you're not doing over the beach assaults or weeks in the field or paratrooping behind enemy lines, then, or shooting it suppressed really, then this is your pistol and you're gonna have zero issues with it. I will say with the 40 springs, make sure you're running 124 NATO pressure or shoot some self-defense rounds through it, 124 plus Ps, because these springs are hyper tight. These 40 springs are super duper tight, and frequently between my hand placement and this spring especially, I have a lot of failures to lock back with the bronze. With the 9mm spring in my first year VP9, it's zero issues. I don't have any problems with that. It always, you know, locks back. It's a lot smoother. So, you know, whatever works. You can still buy the 9mm springs, by the way. So if you get a 40 spring in it, which does help with reliability, you gotta break it in double hard. The red spring breaks in a lot faster, but you still have to use 124. It's a lot lower round count though. You can get away with like 200 rounds. With the VP9, with the blue springs, you know, your colored frames or anything after the second year, I think, of the VP9, you're gonna need to use 500 to 600 rounds to, you know, start shooting your 115s. And your 115s are gonna kind of fart out of there versus, you know, ejecting normally like a 124 plus P, or a peppy 147. Not a suppressor 147. So all that out of the way, yes, I still have them. I love this midnight bronze. Shh. Go ahead and throw what that's from in the comments if you know. Anyways, thanks for watching. Take care out there.